This is chapter 34 of the Nowhere Emporium, and it is called Bad Blood. Vindictus Sharp opened his arms and soaked in the applause of the audience, who cheered and whistled and stamped their feet, blown away by the show. When the curtain closed, Sharp walked in silence to his dressing room. He poured himself a large whiskey and gulped it down, then another. He put on his coat and gloves and scarf and left the theatre through the stage door. The autumn air was cool and crisp. His breath danced around him as he walked the short distance to the grand house that he called home, whenever he happened to be in Edinburgh, which was not very often these days. No one met him at the door upon his arrival. He preferred to keep no staff. He removed his coat and walked up 2 flights of stairs to his office. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat at his desk, beside a crystal glass. He poured a drink and sat at his desk. Then he reached into his pocket and brought out a book with a battered leather cover, placing it with care on the desk. He lit a desk lamp, stretched his fingers, and began to read through the pages, his eyes taking in every detail. "It will never work for you as it does for me." Sharp knew the voice. He did not look up from the Book of Wonders. "Lucian, would you like a drink?" Lucian Silver stood at the entrance to the room, grey eyes fixed upon his book. "You used Michelle, your own daughter, to get to me, to get the book." This time, Sharp's eyes left the pages. "Yes," he said. Silver stepped further into the room. "Why? Why steal the book? You know it will never work properly for you unless I give it up, or you challenge me and defeat me for it. And I will never give it up. There's too much of my soul in those pages. The book is as much a part of me as my heart. I live inside it." Sharp let the question hang in the air. He bit his lip, and his big hands trembled with anger. Silver smiled as realization dawned. "You stole the book because you wanted to copy it. That's it, isn't it? You want one for yourself, but you can't understand how it works. The book is beyond your talents, and it's eating you up. Ha! The great Vindictus Sharp, reduced to imitation." He stepped forward again, so that he was now directly opposite the desk. "So where is it? Where is your version of the Book of Wonders? Weren't you able to create one?" Sharp stared at him with dangerous blue eyes, his lip curled into a sneer. "I have no time for such games." Silver held out a hand. "Give me the book, and you will never hear from me again." Sharp snapped the book shut and rested a hand on its cover. "Get out." Silver leaned across the desk, his face close to Sharp's. "I am not leaving without my book. I have no wish to harm you, despite the fact that nobody could blame me if I did." Sharp did not answer. The book trembled beneath his fingers. He lifted his hand, and it flew off the desk into the waiting grasp of Silver. "Thank you," said Silver. "You will not see me again. Goodbye, and good luck." He had reached the door when Sharp spoke. "I challenge you." Silver stopped. He hung his head. "Do not do this, Vindictus." "I challenge you," repeated Sharp. "No funny business. No messing about. A duel to the finish, the way things should be settled, until either one of us submits or is killed in the process. If I win, the book belongs to me." A pause. "And if you lose?" said Silver. Sharp shrugged his great shoulders. "I will leave that up to you," he said. "It will not happen in any case." Silver thought for a moment. "Years ago, at Birdie's funeral, you never answered when I questioned you about why you never age. I was right, wasn't I? You steal years from other people, take away chunks of time from their lives. You eat their tomorrows." Sharp nodded. "There are branches of magic that require sacrifice." "And it is wrong," said Silver. "It is delayed murder. If I win, you will stop it." Sharp stood his full height, a great bear of a man. "And what are their lives compared to mine? What have they accomplished? They are oblivious to the possibilities this world can offer. Surely it's not too much to ask that a few of them should meet their maker a year or two early in order that I might continue my work." "There are other ways," said Silver. "Different paths to take, other energies you could mine. Imagination, for one, has limitless potential. But you can't see that because you're a maniac." He paused. "I accept your challenge." No sooner had the words left his mouth than Sharp was upon him, flashing around the room, throwing him against the wall. Sharp lifted Silver with a single hand, pushed him back against the wall, and punched him hard in the gut, folding Silver in two. Then, with a wave of his hand, Sharp lifted his desk from the floor and sent it hurtling across the room. Lucian dodged out of its way, just as it crashed against the stone. The sound of cracking glass made Lucian look to the window, where a pane of glass splintered into shards and flew towards him. He tried to bend them around his body, but there were too many, and several slivers stabbed him deep in the leg. He limped out into the hallway, down a set of stairs. Sharp stalked after him, a savage grin on his face. Lucian tried to buy a little time by bringing to life several figures from paintings hung around the hall, but as they attempted to block Sharp's path, he swatted at them. They dissolved into globules of paint and fell to the carpet. Then the dueling magicians were rolling down the stairs, a ball of flailing arms and snarling teeth. Sharp tossed Silver clear across the hallway into a grand sitting room. Silver scrambled backwards, pointing to the fire. Tongues of flame jumped from the fireplace and wrapped around Sharp, encasing him in a blazing shell. He roared and the fire turned to smoke. "You should not have come here tonight," he said. There were 3 daggers in his hands. He tossed the first at Silver, and Silver managed to bend it away towards a sideboard, where it became buried deep in the wood. The second dagger hit Silver in the shoulder. He wrenched back his head and screamed in agony, falling to his knees. "The difference between you and me," said Sharp, "is that I am not afraid to end this fight." He raised the final dagger above his head. The knife left Sharp's hand, and his aim was true. It spun through the air, handle over blade, as it had done so many times on stage. Lucian stared at the spinning blade. Everything else faded away. From the edges of the world, he thought he heard a woman's voice, familiar, soft. "Father! Lucian! No!" With the last ounce of his strength, Lucian Silver deflected the blade. It veered away to the right, gleaming and shimmering. Lucian had not seen Michelle Sharp arrive at the door. The knife struck her in the heart. When she hit the ground, she was already dead. The world seemed to stop. Sharp stood perfectly still, staring at his daughter's lifeless body. Lucian Silver's eyes widened. He howled in agony and despair. Ignoring the pain from his own knife wound, he dragged himself towards her, holding her head in his hands. She was wearing a white nightgown, now stained crimson. "Give me the book, and I will not involve the police," said Sharp. Lucian stared up at him, grey eyes heavy with sorrow. "We killed her," he yelled. "She is dead, and all we can think about is the book." He ripped the dagger from Michelle's chest, leapt to his feet, and pinned Sharp against the wall, fueled by wild rage. He was dwarfed by Sharp, but in that moment, with the shackles taken off, no control or fear to bind him, he was a giant. Sharp's blue eyes widened as the tip of the blade touched his throat. "You killed her, Lucian," he whispered. "I did not throw the knife in her direction. It's your doing." Lucian shook his head. His breathing was harsh, desperate. No, I loved her. I would never hurt her." Sharp stared at him, their faces only inches apart. "Murderer," he whispered. Lucian Silver dropped the knife. He stepped back, clutching at his hair and his chest. No, "Murderer," Sharp said once more, and there was a terrible smile on his lips. Lucian tore a clump of hair from his head. He felt the Book of Wonders in the pocket of his coat. He turned and glanced once more at Michelle's body, and then he was gone. "This is not finished," screamed Sharp into the night. "The duel is not finished. I will find you wherever you go, and I will kill you and take the book." Calmly, coolly, he stepped over his daughter's body, opened a wooden cabinet, and poured himself a whiskey from a crystal decanter. Then he left the room, leaving Michelle to stare sightlessly into the roaring fire.